Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. May all be happy. May all be free from diseases. May all see only goodness everywhere. May no one be subject to misery. May there be peace, abiding peace everywhere by God's wish. This is an ancient prayer. In the scriptures of Hinduism, we find this prayer. And in this prayer, this wish has been expressed. May all be happy. May all see only goodness everywhere. May no one be subject to misery. That is the prayer. It naturally comes to a person's mind when the mind becomes highly developed. So, may all be happy. Now, I'll ask a philosophical question. What is happiness? Well, the answer is, it is a feeling of well-being through the fulfillment of some cherished desire. A feeling of well-being which is acquired through the fulfillment of a cherished desire. A child is sitting with his mother, and on the front porch of their home, and then a peddler walks through the front street carrying some sweetmeats. The peddler wants to sell sweetmeats, and the young boy sees a particular sweet and wants to have that sweet. So he tells his mother, "Mommy, I would like to have that sweet." And the mother buys that sweet and gives that to that boy. And when the boy gets that sweet, the boy really becomes happy, delighted, because his wish has been fulfilled. But had his mother not been able to buy that sweet for him, his wish should not be fulfilled. So then he would not be happy. What is the opposite of happiness? The opposite of happiness is unhappiness. That feeling of well-being will not be there. The person will start feeling miserable. The child will start crying because the child is not happy. But happiness is something which doesn't last forever. A person was very poor and he was surrounded by millionaires. Then he would not feel very well. He was unhappy. Then he decided to pray to God. He wrote a petition and mailed it to God. God, please make me a multi-millionaire. That was the prayer. And it is strange that that prayer was granted. Through a lottery, he got $100 million. and he was very, very happy. And then he had to decide what to do with that money. He invested some of that money in a bank, and with some of the money he bought some property, hoping to sell that property and get that money in the future. And all these things kept him very, very busy. He had to keep track of the money, his investments. As a result, he could not give as much time to his family. That made his wife a little unhappy. She started complaining why he had not been giving that much attention to her and the family. He was always busy thinking of his money. Then he didn't feel too good about it. Then he said to God, God, I applied to you to make me a multimillionaire, and you have made me so, but why am I unhappy? Then he heard the voice of God. God said, find that petition which I granted and read what I have written in fine print. So he had put that petition in his safe and took it out, and there he could see written in fine print, you will be a multimillionaire, but along with this, all these problems will also come. It looks like if a person wants happiness, he may get unhappiness also. Now a question arises, is happiness subjective or objective? There is a story of a newly married couple. They went on their honeymoon to a nearby town, and which is surrounded by beautiful scenery, and he stayed in a hotel. And when they were in the room, they looked out, and there were windows there. Both of them saw some beautiful scenery around, and that made them very happy. After a day or two, they had to, of course, leave that place and go to where they lived. But the memory of their happiness was there in their mind. After 1 or 2 years of their marriage, they had to go somewhere by car, and the car broke down, so it had to be repaired. And the place where they could repair the car was very close to the same hotel where they had stayed during their honeymoon. And then they thought that they would stay in that hotel while the car would be repaired. And the room where they had to stay was the same room which they had to stay in during their honeymoon. That is the honeymoon suite. All other rooms had been taken, so they had to stay in the same room. And both of them looked out the window. And the same scenery was there. where the scenery did not make them that happy. Had the scenery had that subjective quality of making everyone happy, then they would have been happy this time also. But no, this time they did not become happy. So happiness is not objective. Sorry. Had it been objective, then that would have made both of them happy again and again. But it was subjective. Their minds projected that happiness on whatever they observed, and that's what made them happy, that scenery. So now that's why that question arises. What are the techniques to be happy? Some techniques have been given in different scriptures of different religions also, including Hinduism. And in the books of Hinduism, there is a story of Prince Yudhishthira. He belonged to a group of brothers, they are called 5 princes, who were the sons of King Pandu. They are called Pandavas. Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna and Nakula and Sahadeva. These are the 5 brothers. So all the brothers went together to a particular lake and they wanted to drink water there. But there was someone sitting there. He is a celestial being, in Sanskrit called Yaksha. And the celestial being said, if you can answer my questions, then I will allow you to drink the water of this lake. And unfortunately, none of them could answer the questions. And then came Yudhishthira, the eldest brother, and he was very righteous also. So that Yaksha or celestial being asked Yudhishthira some questions. And Yudhishthira was able to give correct answers to all of them. And one question was, who is happy? Then Yudhishthira gave the answer, one who does not have debts, that is called Arini in Sanskrit, and one who does not live in a foreign land, that is called Apravasi, they are happy. In those days, the world was full of little kingdoms, and people of one kingdom were not very comfortable in other kingdoms. So, one, in order to be happy, had to be in their own kingdom, not elsewhere. So, one who doesn't have debts and one who does not live abroad, these two people are happy. So this is one definition of happy people given by Yudhishthira. Then there are other methods of becoming happy. One is rational thinking. I have been in this temple for about 45 years. And when I first came, one lady she came here once or twice, then she stopped coming. So I asked her, "Why don't you come anymore?" Then she said, "I am not welcome here." She was of course welcome, but she thought that she was not welcome. It was her subjective thinking. I asked her, "No, people must like you." Then he said, "No, I don't think they like me. Otherwise they would have started talking to me in a friendly way. But they don't greet me every time I come." That's what he said. Had she had rational thinking, then she would understand what I had been saying. But her thinking was a little irrational. Then I remember that American lady, famous lady, her name was Helen Keller. When she was about 2 years old or so, she had some disease, as a result of which she lost her eyesight and hearing. So she should have been miserable. But by her own effort, eventually through Braille method and all, she became highly educated, and she was so educated and that even the President of the United States befriended her. This is Helen Keller. And she was never unhappy. She used to say, because she did not have eyesight, she did not have hearing, but still she was quite happy. Then she used to say that you should learn to have positive comparison. You should think how lucky you are. There are so many people who are in much worse physical shape than you are. So this is positive comparison. Through this comparison you will feel happy. And also I read about a person who lived in a certain neighborhood, and his neighbors had some sons who were very enterprising. But this particular gentleman did not have any son or anything. So he thought that his neighbors were happier. But one day he went to the hospital to see a patient. And there he saw many other patients. They're all young. Due to sports-related accidents and all, they're all bedridden. And most of them won't be able to even walk during their lifetime. So by seeing that, he felt great sympathy for them. And he, comparing his condition with the condition of those young women, he felt that he was very lucky. And that's how through positive comparison he felt happy. His unhappiness was gone. And also there is another technique. It is reducing craving for external possessions. If one can do that, then one can be happy. According to a story, there was a king who was very wealthy and everything. And in those ancient times, those small kingdoms were there, and he was a king of such a kingdom. And then He was in his palace. Then his prime minister came and he asked the prime minister, "Am I happy?" Then the prime minister said, "Yes, you are happy. You are happy." He said, "Am I happier than all other people?" Then the prime minister said, "No, there is someone who is happier than you." "Who is he?" Then the prime minister looked out the big windows which that palace had and showed the king a lion-clad monk seated under a tree, and he seemed to be happy. Then the minister said, "He is happier than you are." So how can he be happier? He doesn't have anything. He said, "That's why he is happier." He doesn't have any possessions, that's why he is happier. So another technique is cutting down expectations from others. People become unhappy because they cherish certain expectations from other people. And those expectations are not necessarily fulfilled by those people. So that's why they become unhappy. Still, there is another technique to be happy. That is learning to make self-sacrifice for others. That will make a person happy. There is a story to drive this point home. In the highland of Hawaii, there was an elderly person. He appeared to be very happy. Then one newly married young couple came to him and he said, "How can I be happy? How can we be happy like you are?" Then we are not newly married. Then the elderly gentleman said to them, that is, to have a happy marriage, you should learn to make self-sacrifice. You should make sacrifice for each other. And this couple one day went to the shore of that island, and there was no one else there. So they were happy to be there. And they had only one piece of cloth, extra cloth. They thought that they would lay that cloth on the shore and lie on that. But that cloth was not big enough. So, yet simultaneously, both thought that it would be nice had it been possible for them to lie on the beach on the cloth. By putting one's head on the other's lap. But the problem was that it could not be done by both of them at the same time. One had to make some self-sacrifice. So following the advice of that elderly gentleman, they learned to make self-sacrifice. In alternation, they started lying on the beach. Let me refer to some spiritual souls, such as Gautama Buddha. What teaching he gave make a person happy. Gautama Buddha used to say that one has to learn to make one's mind tranquil, then there will be happiness. People suffer because their minds are not tranquil. And the scriptures of Hinduism say that everything in this world is made of three gunas: Sattva guna, Raja guna and Tama guna. Mother Nature is made of these three gunas. And these three gunas are like three strings which are wrapped around one another. And that's what is Mother Nature or Prakriti. Prakriti is like that. And these three gunas have each different qualities. Sattva guna when it is manifested, then it creates tranquility of mind. And Rajaguna, when it is manifested, it causes brisk activities. And Tamaguna, when it is manifested, it brings lethargy. So the same person has three gunas, and each gunas is like a sibling. It wants to fight with the other two. There's three siblings wrestling, and each one wants to subdue the other two. That's why this one guna sometimes becomes dominant. The person becomes very restive, restless. And at another time, that means Rajaguna has become dominant. And then Sattva-guna has become dominant. A person has gone to a temple, the mind has become calm, then he can sit there and think of God. This is Sattva-guna. And Tamaguna, a person is extremely sleepy. So he feels drowsy and he has to lie down and sleep. At that time, his Tamaguna has become preponderant. So Gautama Buddha taught that you should develop Sattva guna, then the mind will become tranquil. Otherwise life will be suffering. Then also, in order to make the mind tranquil, one should take the right kind of food. There are certain kinds of food which affect the mind adversely. For example, alcohol. Alcohol is a depressant. There are some people who wrongly think that alcohol is an intoxicant, but no, it is a depressant. When I first came here, I had to learn how to drive a car. Then when I went for the driving test, somebody taught me how to drive. And then I had to fill out a questionnaire to get the license. And in that questionnaire there were many questions. And one question was, is alcohol an intoxicant or depressant? I thought alcohol must be intoxicant. I never took alcohol. I saw people who take alcohol, they became intoxicated. So I wrote that answer, the intoxicant. That is one answer which is not correct. All other questions I answered correctly. So alcohol is a depressant. That's why if you go to a hospital, they will not allow you to drink alcohol. So if you want to be happy, it is best for you to stay away from alcohol. Then there is some disease called clinical depression. A person who has that problem, he is depressed due to clinical reason, his body's some deficiency, he becomes depressed. And I know one such person, he was holding a high position, but that clinical depression came. So that's why he had to undergo treatment. There are medicines for clinical depression. So those who have depression of the kind which is called clinical depression, they should take medication if necessary. And ultimately one should learn that one has to go beyond happiness and unhappiness. Because one can never say when happiness will turn into unhappiness. The word Shanti is used in the scriptures of Hinduism and in other religions also. Peace, Shalom, Islam, all these things means peace and Shanti. Shanti is a state which is beyond happiness and unhappiness. A person who is suffering from headache, then he is in a state of suffering. Then he takes some painkiller, and after 15 minutes his suffering is gone. Is he now enjoying? The answer is no, he is not enjoying. He is neither enjoying nor suffering. He has found relief from both. This state of relief is called Shanti or peace. And divinity is beyond suffering and enjoyment. That's why the word Shanti is used to mean divinity. So we should be happy and we should experience Shanti, which is possible only when our minds manifest divinity. Thank you all so much.